Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to talk about a perfect demonstration of how to write a strong narrative for your Dungeons and Dragons campaign session, and how to write a poor narrative for your Dungeons and Dragons campaign session. And we're going to do that by looking at Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities, which is a new Call of Cthulhu inspired television show. Actually, really trying to lose television show from my vocabulary. Small screen show that is airing on Netflix right now, which I do recommend. But it's called the Cabinet of Curiosities, and it's actually a collection of 8 episodes, which are curated by Guillermo del Toro, and some of them are tier 1 gold content, and some of them are good, and some of them suck. All right, and because it is all together, these are all Call of Cthulhu stories, okay? Being crafted by hand-picked directors, right? Hand-picked by Guillermo del Toro. It's a perfect model of looking at, here's how one storyteller crafted their narrative, and it fully succeeds. And here's how one storyteller crafted the same narrative, right? Just different characters, slightly different locations, same period, same frame, which is called a Cthulhu story, and one succeeds and one fails, right? So we as dungeon masters, we are tasked with this, right? Hollywood is like, hey, you schmucks, climb your butts into a theater and give us $15, and maybe it'll suck or maybe it'll be decent, right? We don't have that privilege. People are giving us 2 hours of their time, and when it's done, we look them in the face. Unlike directors in Hollywood who can just kind of walk away and walk on to their next mess and get paid millions, we have a duty to bring joy and answers in every Dungeons and Dragons session. That's what a dungeon master does. They bring joy and they bring answers, because in my humble opinion, that is the legacy of Gary Gygax. That's what he built Dungeons and Dragons to do, to deliver joy and answers with every session. Okay? So we don't have the privilege of serving up pablum crap the way Hollywood does. We need to get it right. Okay? All right, spoilers for all of the Cabinet of Curiosities here. All right, so first of all, I have watched 6 out of the 8 of the episode, and the only reason why I haven't watched the last 2 is there's just so much good stuff to watch right now. There's just a ton of great material. It's just a ton, right? So I'm working my way through it. I'm in the 6th episode with Rupert Grint. But today, I want to talk about 2 episodes of Cabinet of Curiosity, and I think this holds the key on how to write a strong narrative and how to write a suck narrative, how to do one and not do the other. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so Guillermo del Toro, it's no longer a debatable subject whether he's a good director or not. He has an Oscar, period, end of sentence, right? He's an Oscar award-winning director. He's a good director. Shape of Water, Hellboy, Pan's Labyrinth. If you don't know that Guillermo del Toro is a good director, I can't help you. All right, let's keep moving. So Guillermo del Toro is a world-class director, and to my knowledge, I don't think he didn't direct anything in Cabinet of Curiosities. What he did is he chose 8 directors, and he said, the frame is Call of Cthulhu, okay? And so you're going to tell a Cthulhu-based horror story, okay? Miskatonic University, cosmic horror. That's the frame. Okay, you each deliver. I've chosen each of you 8 directors. Each one's going to give me an episode, and I'm going to stitch them all together. I'm going to make sure that one episode connects to the next episode and connects to the next episode. However, when I do this, when I connect these things, it will be a delight to the experiencer to say, "Oh, this episode 5 connects to episode 2, right? And isn't that a delight? They connect, right? But they're also freestanding. Like if you're not watching closely, you could miss these very subtle connections, but it's all in the same world, right? So what I want to talk about today is I think it is episode 5, yeah, and episode 1. So episode 1 of the Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities is Lot 36. Episode 5 is named Pickman's Model. Pickman's Model. Okay. Now, episode 1 has no named actors. Right? None. I didn't recognize. I don't know. I've seen 2 of the actors. Not enough to ever know their names. They're very skilled, but they play, bit characters here and there, right? But it is masterful. Episode 1 is one of the best episodes of any horror show, anything I've ever watched on the small screen. That's in a series rather than a movie. It's fantastic. All right. And by the way, you have 3 choices with Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities. You can ignore it. I think a lot of people are going to ignore it. Guillermo del Toro is very thinky. I just asked a good friend. I was like, "Hey, have you ever seen Guillermo del Toro?" And they're like, "I don't know who that is." Right? I was like, "I get it. I kind of understand why you know." Also, did Guillermo del Toro do Pacific Rim? I think he did. Yeah. Unusual, right? All right. So, tell me if I'm wrong on that. All right. So, but Crimson Peak, his work is pans out. Crimson Peak's in there. I listed it before. Okay. All right. But he's handpicking these directors, and the director he chose for Lot 36, who delivered Lot 36, delivers a near perfect. And the only reason I say near perfect is we're humans. Nothing we do is perfect. Okay. All right. Everything we do is slightly broken. Right? It's the nature of our reality. Right. So it's near perfect. It's as perfect as a human can get. It is a near flawless episode of horror. And so what is the story? Disgruntled person who is highly prejudiced toward anybody who does not have his own skin color buys. He has a deal where he buys storage units from a storage unit manager, not an owner, a manager, right? So he goes in and he bids $400 for a unit. He outbids everybody who came, and the reality is when it's done, he goes in and he pays the store manager $100, not $400. He empties the entire thing out, and then he goes back and he makes like $300-400 out of it, and he gives the manager a third, right? And so he gives back another $100. So the store, the storage unit owner, storage unit manager is pocketing $200, and he's pocketing like $400, right? And everybody who comes to these storage unit things are actually getting rooked. They're only getting the crappiest ones, or they're not, or they're being falsely outbid, right? Now, honestly, I really love this in this story because I thought this is what's been happening all along. I always thought, like, if you're buying a storage unit, you got to be out of your mind. Why wouldn't the storage unit owner just literally go through pull all the good stuff and leave the crap for you to buy? I've never understood why anyone buys a storage unit, right? It just doesn't make any sense to me, right? But they acknowledge that in this, right? It's a grift, right? Well, what this guy does is he buys Lot 36, and what is in it is there's actually a secret space in the back, and in the back, this occultist has trapped a demon, right? And in the demon's trap, there's a book that is used to trap the demon, right? Well, this occultist who wants the book, the occultist who just died and left this storage unit locker, right? Basically, this guy offers $300,000 for this book, right? So what ends up happening is this highly prejudiced person, right, ends up finding the book and is like, oh, there's the book that's going to give me $300,000, and and the cultist that came in with him, that found the book with him, is like, do not move, right? There's actually a trapped demon there, and if you scuff even 1 inch of that, salt away, it's going to kill you, right? And that's exactly what happens, right? This guy is like, I don't believe in the supernatural, and then learns real quick that the supernatural is quite real, and he dies when the demon murders him and the occultist. And that's the end of the story. Very simple, very concise, right? And it works, okay? Next is Pickman's Model, episode 5, right? So this actually has a named actor in it. It is Crispin Glover, who played Marty McFly's father. And he is perfectly used here. Very creepy. And he is an artist at Miskatonic University who is competing with other artists to win a prize, right? Well, it's about this young artist who actually had won the prize the year before, and now Pickman, who's played by Crispin Glover, comes in and they sketch this old man, right, who's like, posing, right? And the regular artist just draws this amazingly perfect rendition, but Pickman draws this horrific thing, right? This cosmic horror attached. It's the old man, but it's turned and it's twisted, right? And then you get the idea, and then you find out that these two artists are linked, and that Pickman had been really kind of bullied by the regular artist, and the regular artist is doing extremely well, but Pickman's doing poorly. And so Pickman draws these horrible cosmic paintings, and then exposes the regular artist's family to them, and he turns his wife, and he terrifies his son, right? And so at the end of the Pickman's model, this regular artist is begging his wife and son not to look at these paintings that Pickman has done, right? But they do look at the paintings that Pickman has done, and then it turns them evil, right? It turns the mother evil, and the mother chops the child's head off and cooks it in an oven, right? After she has gouged out her own eyes. And you're expecting me to say, oh, it was scary. It wasn't scary at all, right? And here's why. 2 reasons, right? The first writer wrote a simple story with a compelling character that you could understand, right? That was carefully, simply drawn, right? Highly prejudiced person, right? Who's a grift, who's a cheater, right? And so, like, when he gets eaten by the demon, you are all for it. You're like, yeah, that dude totally deserves what he's getting. Like, who doesn't like to see a villain get their comeuppance, right? Everybody enjoys that, right? It's simple. It's raw. It's real, right? It's what we all want, right? We want justice in the world, right? So, but the second story, right? First of all, when everybody would look at Pickman's pictures, it would then give them dementia, right? It would give them delusion, right? And they wouldn't see clearly. They would see things that weren't there, right? So not only is the main character an unreliable narrator, but then the mother and the child, whenever they look at the paintings, whatever they see next isn't real, right? So at the end, you're showing me that the mother has chopped off the child's head and is baking it in the oven after she gouged out her own eyes, right? But there's all kinds of problems here. One, she's bleeding from her eyes because she's chopped them out, and you're like, that's enough blood loss where she would just drop on the floor. Why is she still up, right? And then you're also like, oh, that's terrible that the boy's head is in the oven. But is it? Because here's the issue, right? Is this just something that the artist is seeing, or is this real? And you know what? At this point, after watching 50 minutes of this, and you already, doing your little jump scares, and oh, it was, now he snapped back to reality, and it's real, and it's not real. It was just an illusion. He was being delusional, right? He was seeing illusions. If you don't give me a reliable narrator, I'm not going to care what you put in front of me to see. Why am I supposed to think this is real now, and not you're just going to cut the camera to the boy drinking milk at the table, right? You've told me not to trust the characters, and you've told me not to trust you as the storyteller. Now, what does this mean for Dungeons & Dragons? First of all, do not use illusions in your game. It is very bad. It is a very, very bad idea, right? Because it tells the players you can't trust what you're seeing, and you can't trust me as the DM. And you don't want to do that, because nothing good comes from distrust. It's not fun. It doesn't lead anywhere. And any dungeon master who's putting illusions in their game, that's a bad dungeon master, and you shouldn't be there. Move on to the next. Get a good one, right? And the reality is, so it's in the game, the spell is there, but it's not good. Anytime you make it a habit for your player characters to say, I don't believe what my player character is seeing, you're constructing a bad game. And this is also, you're constructing a bad game, right? But there are ways to make Call of Cthulhu work, right? But when I think this is one of the reasons why Dungeons and Dragons absolutely destroys Call of Cthulhu in sales and in attention and in just love of the people who participate in it, right? The reality is, when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, what you see is what you get, right? And with Call of Cthulhu, it's just so rare, right? Now, Lot 36 is a brilliant story. If you tell a simple story drawn with bold lines, right? And you allow people to see justice delivered, you can tell a great Call of Cthulhu story, right? But the reality is, when you run Dungeons & Dragons, it's the same thing. Draw with bold lines. Make sure that the players know that whatever their player character is seeing is real and matters. It's not an illusion. It's not a dream. You need reliable narrators to tell stories that people care about. The moment you get into a space where you are telling stories and you are showing people that what I'm putting on the camera, what I'm putting in front of your eyes doesn't matter, they will think it doesn't matter, right? If half of your stuff is dreams and nonsense, people are going to back out. They're not going to be engaged, right? So when you tell a Dungeons & Dragons story, tell it a simple story, drawn with bold, sharp lines, okay? And make sure justice is delivered, and make sure that justice is delivered by player characters. That's the right way to do it. Also, here's one more thing. When you make a hot sauce, you can make the hottest sauce in the world. Does it matter? Is it good? Is it good to taste? Or did you just heap on more and more chilies? And that's what's happening with Pickman's model. That director is just making a hot sauce that's super hot, not a hot sauce that's good, that actually tastes good, right? It's not easy to make a hot sauce that tastes good. It needs to be spicy. It needs a little bit of pain, but it's got to have flavor. It's got to have savor, right? And that's the balance you need to strike as a dungeon master. All that is my humble opinion. I'm eager to hear yours. Let me know. Have you seen Cabinets of Curiosity? What do you think are the lessons that Dungeon Masters should be taking away from this show? All that's my humble opinion. I'm eager to hear yours. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.